Well, this is the 920th day, and today we have with us a wonderful young guest. This is none other than Dr. Gurukiran, BHMS SCPH, graduated from BHMS from Government Homeopathy Medical College and Hospital, Bangalore. Then classical homeopathy practitioner in the district of Chamrajnagar, state of Karnataka, India. 14 years of clinical experience and independent researcher. Presented papers in homeopathy approach for the treatment in different types of cases, especially psoriasis, thyroid problems, PCOS, epilepsy, hypertension, respiratory disorders, parahemophilia, GERD, alopecia areata infecta. All are really tough topics. Then presented papers in DD Chandana on various, there is Doordarshan, the national channel of India, the local channel, local language there, DD Chandana. Then the topic is potential of characteristic symptoms. This word itself draws attention because there no such terminology, no such usage in the usual medical parlance. There is only symptoms as well as characteristic symptoms of such diseases. But this is different. The characteristics intended to select the medicine. So it is the core area of homeopathy. On behalf of IFPH, I welcome Dr. Gurukiran. You can have the platform for the next 45 minutes. It's over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the warm welcome, sir. And good evening to the participants of IFPH and good morning to some of them. Today's topic is the potential of characteristic symptoms. As Dr. Manoj sir said, it draws attention to everyone because that is the core and this is the main focus of an homeopathic physician for the prescription. And I would like to say a few days back, Dr. Chirant has presented in cases in this platform, and he told about some of the schools of homeopathy. So in homeopathy, we have got a lot of schools teaching homeopathy, how to practice, what to practice, when to prescribe, how to prescribe, everything else. So in our country, we have got a lot of schools like Predictive School and the Other Song Academy of Dr. Rajan Shankaran sir, and Classical Homeopathy by Dr. George Vitolkar sir, Seigel's Method, number of other schools of homeopathy, as we all know that. So in that, what is the basis for their prescriptions? What we can do, what we can see in our clinics, what is the potential of characteristic symptoms? Let me discuss this topic today. Welcome you all once again for this platform. Now, before proceeding further, a tribute to Dr. Samuel Hahnemann. If you can observe this picture, a homeless man having a nap in front of Hahnemann statue. If you observe carefully, there are carvings beside the Hahnemann statue. It depicts the Hahnemann student life, Hahnemann as a philosopher, Hahnemann as a teacher, and Hahnemann as a physician. All those pictures are depicted, are carved besides the Hahnemann statue. Because as Hahnemann said, we should be an unprejudiced observer and keen observer. We should start cultivating this observation in our clinic also. It will help in prescribing also, because the topic is the characteristic symptoms. In our clinic, we can get the characteristic signs and symptoms also by observations. We should be very keen and unprejudiced by observing a patient or a case. Let's move further. What are all the objectives for today's session? To know about the characteristic symptom. This chameleon is very characteristic, as we all know that. And the importance of the characteristic symptoms and the approach towards the characteristic symptoms. These are all the objectives. By the end of my session, all the participants, I think they should be very clear in the mind that how to pick up a characteristic symptom, on what basis we have to pick up a characteristic symptom, how to repertorize it, and how can we arrive at the prescription? If that is the case, I'll be very happy at the end of the session. Yes. Let's move on to the next slide now. What is the definition of characteristic symptom? As we all know that a characteristic symptom is a distinguished sign or a symptom of a disease condition which guides us towards the most appropriate homeopathic remedy for the disease state. This is very, very important. This characteristic symptom has to guide us towards an appropriate homeopathic remedy. So it makes the prescription easier. It will be helpful for the patient. Now, where it has been said in the aphorisms, the aphorism 153. What does Hahnemann say? In seeking for the specific homeopathic remedy in comparison of the collective symptoms of the natural disease with a list of symptoms of known medicines in order to find among these an artificial morphic agent corresponding by similarity to the disease to be cured. The most striking, singular, uncommon, and peculiar, what it is called as characteristic signs and symptoms of the case of the disease are chiefly and most solely to be kept in view. This has been said in the aphorisms. And Hahnemann, further he says in the aphorism 154, that is, if the antitype constructed from the list of symptoms of the most suitable medicine containing those peculiar, uncommon, singular, and distinguishing, that is solely called as characteristic symptoms, which are to be met with in the disease to be cured in the greatest number and in the greatest similarity, this medicine is the most appropriate homeopathic specific remedy for this morbid state. This is a beautiful aphorism. This is very beautiful. We should be aware of this aphorism before treating a case. Yes. Let's move on to the next slide, which shows Dr. Bonninghausen. I would like to give a special tribute to Dr. Bonninghausen because his birthday was March 12th, last Sunday. It was his birthday. For him, in his birthday's day, for him a special contribution from this session. Yes, a special tribute. What does as we all know, Dr. Bonninghausen was an advocate before when he came to homeopathy. He was suffering with a purulent tuberculosis, and all other systems of medicine were actually, he was exhausted after taking all the medicines. Then he wrote a letter to his friend, to Dr. Way, where he explained his symptoms with a concomitant to his friend. After receiving that letter, Dr. Way has prescribed a remedy called as pulsatilla. After giving pulsatilla to Dr. Maria Franz von Clemens von Bonninghausen, after that, he recovered very well. By the summer, he was almost cured. But it was a turning point of his life. Then he became an ardent follower of Hahnemann and homeopathy, and he has converted lot of people to homeopathy. And one of the major contributions to homeopathy is lesser writings. Bonninghausen's lesser writings. We should not forget at all. But what does he say about the characteristic symptom? His contribution is treatise concerning the greater or lesser characteristic value of the symptoms occurring in a disease to aid as a norm or basis in the therapeutical selection of remedy. And he classifies the characteristic symptoms. What is the classification of characteristic symptoms? Is the quiz. What it is called as? It is the personality of the patient is called as quiz. Then the quid. What it is the disease peculiarity or the peculiarity of the disease. Then the UB, the seat of the disease. This is the thing which frequently furnishes a characteristic symptom in a case. We should not forget the seat of the disease. And the cubus oxalis, which is the concomitant symptom. And the cur, the causations. Commando is the modalities of time, and the quando, modalities of circumstances. It is also called as hexameter. Though it is 7, the quando is actually the least considered. He says it is not at all important when all these quis, quid, ubi, quibus, auxilius, quid, commando matches and classifies in a case. This is very important contribution of Dr. von Bonninghausen to the field of homeopathy. And also Dr. James Tyler Kent. He writes in his philosophy, as Hahnemann said, the information that leads up to characterizing is really the information that makes the physicians wise, by which he has the ability to intelligently understand that which he has to treat. This is a very important paragraph in his philosophy, what he said. Further, he says, please note that there is an emphatic sense in that word characterizes. It is not ordinary expression. We have read in the earlier portions of the Organon that the disease makes itself known to the physician by signs and symptoms, and that the totality of the symptoms is the sole representation of the disease to the physician. But the totality has to be studied to ascertain what there is among all the symptoms that characterize the disease or mark the symptoms as peculiar. So these are all the points which is very important, as our homeopathic stalwarts says in their writes in their book. And also further, he says that which is characteristic of the disease is most similar of all other things to that which is characteristic of that remedy, or vice versa. As we all know that in the drug proving, what happens? We prove the drug on a healthy human beings. While proving the drug, we get some of the symptoms that has been recorded in our Materia Medica Pura. Like that. We may reasonably assume that the remedy is specific, but homeopathicity can only be demonstrated by cure. This is what the James Tyler Kent say in his philosophy and his books. Next, we should not forget Dr. Boger, Cyrus Maxwell Boger. Boger accepted the same basic plan and amplified it to include the specific concomitants and modalities in various locations. As we all know, if we take and open the synoptic key of Boger, we see various modalities and various modalities of locations. He also included a section dealing with characteristic symptomatology of each remedy in the part 1 to permit a ready reference to Materia Medica. This is also speaks about the characteristic symptom of each remedy, which helps the prescriber to prescribe on the basis of characteristic symptoms. And Dr. Lippe, I have to mention him very specially. Dr. Lippe's life deserves special mention because he was a staunch and uncompromising bearer of the torch of strict Hahnemannian homeopathy. He was born 11th May 1812. Lippe was a steadfast, loyal devotee of Hahnemannian homeopathy. This man was an ardent follower of Hahnemann and also his disciples. Dr. Lippe went to study homeopathy in America in Allentown Academy, which was founded by Dr. Constantine Herring. For his fortunate thing, he received his diploma by the hands of Dr. Herring in the same college of Allentown Academy. He was that much follower of homeopathy. And he has contributed a lot to the homeopathic literature. As we all know, he has contributed a lot of books, especially a textbook of Materia Medica called as Red Line Symptoms of Adolf von Lippe. This remarkable man was one of the most accomplished prescribers in the history of homeopathy. And in further one of the book, he says, we often have failures in our daily practice because we don't know the rules and regulations of homeopathy and when to repeat the dose. In this field, Dr. Lippe was a master in the prescription and in the repetition of the dose. Friends, as we all know that the prescription may be easy by taking the case by repetizing and all. While repeating the dose, it is a difficult part. In this part, Dr. Lippe was a master in this field, especially in repetition of the doses. There he accomplished lot of fame and lot of success in his career. Lippe possessed a deep knowledge of materia medica. He was a keen observer and with uncanny accuracy, he used to pick up the essential indications of the case. Frequently make use of symptoms which seem trivial or having no evident connections with the patient's ailment. He was a master in the art of presenting the essential indications and unlike other writers, always told why he gave the remedy that cured the case. And Dr. Praful Vijayka was also known as the Lion of Homeopathy. What does he say about this? He says in his book, the activity thermal thrust axis based simillimum is a true representative of the holistic man, since the activity represents ether, the thermals, that is the heat, the regulator mechanism of the body, represents fire, and thirst, which controls the osmolality, that is the water content of the body, which represents water. Hunt, he says, I have attended a lot of classes of Dr. Praful Vijayka. He used to say, hunt for an activity thermal thrust axis in the patient. When the patient sit in front of you in your clinic, hunt for the rubrics, hunt for the characteristic symptoms, find out the activity of the affected patient, find the right thermals of the hot or chilly as shown later in this chapter in this book, find out the mental changes, find out the desires and aversions, and the right simillimum is ready to be prescribed. This was his approach. And last but not the least, the legend, the living legend, Dr. George Vithalkas, and the Right Livelihood Award winner from the Swedish government. We should not forget him at all. Dr. George Vithalkas, in his book, The Levels of Health, what does he say? In his book, he says, the patient with the higher levels of health and therefore well-functioning defense mechanism will probably present a clear remedy pattern to the practitioner. This is what the characteristic symptom is. Will probably present a clear remedy pattern of the practitioner. When the level goes down, when the health level goes down, the defense mechanism will not present a clear remedy pattern. This is where the practitioner becomes confused. Fewer or more doses, fewer or more medicines may require to cure the case. If the case is very clear, if the remedy pattern is very clear, then it should happen within single remedy, within single dose. This is the approach of Dr. George Vithalkas. And also further, he says, in the lowest levels, there may be total confusion in the case where several remedies seems to be indicated. Whatever remedy you may choose, the result will be meager and the case will remain as a state of pathology. These are the confused cases. Where do you not know where to start? Further, he gives a general rule to the prescribers that the lower the patient is on the scale of levels of health, the more difficult it will be to find the correct remedy, the correct sequence of remedies, but also the more remedies will be needed to regenerate the organisms. The higher the level of health, the clearer the remedy and the fewer remedies will take to cure the patient. This is what he gives them as a general rule for the prescribers. Yes, after having this introduction from all the stalwarts of homeopathy, let's move on to the cases now. From this, how can we look in the cases of the characteristic symptoms? where can we pick up the characteristics, symptoms, which is useful for the prescription. Yes, I would like to present first case of a case of insomnia. A 22-year-old female presented with insomnia since 10 years. Due to alertness of the mind, the patient cannot sleep. How can I say due to alertness? This was narrated by his father, patient's father. When they came to my clinic, the patient's father was residing beside the patient, and he narrated an incident that he gets up for the toilet in the middle of the night. The patient would tell the exact time of waking up in the middle of the night in the morning. So what it shows, the patient is alert. Patient of the mind is alert during the night. On the basis of this characteristic symptom, I repertorized it. What does the repertory say? Yes, insomnia, sleeplessness, and the mind is alert mentally. So what is the remedy which is standing out is the coffea. The prescription is coffea cruda. 2 doses I have prescribed because the case was since 10 years. So, the female was suffering since 10 years. After that, I have purposely told them to call me back after a few days. Just after a few days, the patient called me back and said, after the prescription, the same day, the patient slept very well. The same day, the patient slept very well. In a week, the patient has to get his natural sleep. The patient is beautifully recovered well. This was the potential of the characteristic symptom if we hunt for a characteristic symptom. Yes, let's move on to the case 2 now. What is this? This is the dangerous area of a face, as we all know that in the anatomy. What is the dangerous area of face? It's a triangle bounded by lines, join root of the nose with angle of the mouth. Venous drainage from this area enter angular veins which communicate with the cavernous sinus. Therefore, boil or carbuncle in this region produce cavernous sinus thrombosis. We should be very much careful. That is why it is called as dangerous area, which lies between the root of the nose and the 2 angles of the mouth. In this area, the facial vein has no valves. The infection may spread like anything, like a hair wire. Now, an interesting case related to dangerous area of the face. A female, aged 27 years, presented with a bruised injury to the dangerous area of the face with pain over the upper lip area. The patient had swelling over the upper lip and it has spread to the other parts of the face due to a mechanical injury by a mobile phone. I think basically when the patient was sleeping, the patient would have kept the mobile in the vibration mode in upper part of his head. Due to some call, due to the vibration, the mobile phone fell down on especially the dangerous area of the face. After that, if you can look at the face of the patient, see the swelling. See the swelling of this dangerous area of the face. This was the condition. This was the first picture taken in the early morning. And the swelling has spreaded all through the face. Due to the privacy factor, I would not like to show the whole face of the patient. This was the first picture of the case where you can see the swelling of the dangerous area. Yes. How can we see in the repertory is face swelling, especially including also nose injury after there is a swelling. The single remedy rubric, single remedies, the top homeopathic remedy for bruised injuries is arnica. After this, I have prescribed arnica montana 200, 2 doses. Since it's an acute case, in acute cases, I would tend to may ask to repeat the patient. Yes, after the prescription, I have prescribed her in the evening within 24 hours of prescription. What can we expect a change after the prescription, including the characteristic symptom? This is the expectation within 24 hours of prescription. In the morning itself, she posted me a picture that all the swelling, the pain, including, has disappeared. This is the potential of prescription based on characteristic symptoms. Let's move on to the case 3 now. It's a premenstrual syndrome case, as the picture suggests. I think these kind of cases we frequently encounter in our clinics. A female aged about 25 years was presented with the symptoms of getting irritable before menses since few months. The intensity of irritability is such that nobody in the house should appear in front of her before menses. If this happens, she starts to shout at them without any cause, or she becomes angry. Her mother used to say in front of me, "Sir, if she in the period, we do not go in front of her. If anybody appears in front of her, she shouts like anything. Please rescue her with this condition." What can we do? What can we do now with this condition? On the basis of this characteristic symptom, the case was repertorized and prescribed. Not all the cases have these kind of symptoms before periods. So we have this. So this is the base of a characteristic symptom. Yes. Irritable menses before. A single remedy rubric entering through a characteristic symptom. It is a well-proven drug, that is natriumur, in the nerve repertory. So, yes, without any doubt, we can prescribe natriumur. 200 single dose, I have prescribed that. Yes, follow-up. After 1 month, there was no irritability before or after menses. The patient was so happy that she was able to have a menstrual cycle without any kind of problems. And also their parents, they were so much happy that this time she had a very normal menstrual cycle without any kind of irritability. This is the potential when we select a characteristic symptom for a prescription. Yes. Let's move on to the case 4 now. What is this? Picture shows this is a focal weakness of a hand. In the morning, in my OPD, actually this on the day, he was the first patient, I think, in the morning. He came with the weakness of one of the most common, yes, he came with the focal weakness. What about that? Weakness is one of the most common reasons patient presented to primary care clinicians. Weakness is loss of muscle strength. Weakness may affect a few or many muscles and develop suddenly or gradually. Other symptoms may be present depending on the cause. Common causes of focal weakness, which include, what we know about that is the stroke, the most common cause of unilateral weakness. And we should be very, very aware of these conditions when a patient comes with a focal weakness. And neuropathies, which is caused by trauma, and the spinal root entrapment, and the spinal cord compression, and the multiple sclerosis. We should be very much aware of these conditions when the patient presents with the focal weakness. Now about the case. A male aged about 36 years was presented with the right hand weakness since morning. The onset was sudden. The patient narrated with the symptoms of weakness of the right hand and he was not able to hold the pen since morning and associated with stupor. So we should be very much aware when these kind of things are presented from the patient side. Examinations to rule out other causes. This was the first picture in the morning. See, the patient cannot hold the pen tightly, properly. Only he can just, it was difficult to make a fist. He told, "Sir, it is very, very difficult to make a fist." I said, okay, it's okay. How much ever possible, you can do it. For the photo sake, I have taken it. You can easily pull out the pen from his hand. When I asked him to hold tightly, this much capacity was that in the morning. What can we do now? Yes, we go to the repertory. Hands weak, especially the right, could not lift things. And he was having stupor, answers stupor, returns quickly after. This was the rubric. What is the standing out remedy is baptisia. Can we think of this baptisia in this case? Anybody? What we will jump to the remedy. It may be causticum, it may be some other remedies, plumbum and all, zincum, all metal group of remedies when we think about the focal weakness. This repertory gives us a clear hint of baptisia. Yes, after repertorizing this case, I sincerely prescribed the wild indigo. Yes, baptisia tinctoria, 200, 2 doses. And I purposefully told the patient to call me back within a few days' time. Yes, after a few days, he came back to clinic and he said, yes, sir, by the next day, I used to function my normal routine activities with my fist and with my fingers, and I can hold the pen tightly now. See the tightness of the hand now. Now I cannot pull out the pen easily. This was the potential of characteristic symptoms when we enter a case. Now the case 5. Yes, this is a very interesting case. As the picture shows, it's a case of vomiting, especially a chronic vomiting case. A female aged about 17 years presented with the symptom of vomiting since 2.5 years. You can imagine, since 2.5 years, she used to vomit. She has been to a number of other doctors. Only 1 or 2 days, only for 3 days, she used to get relief from vomiting. Otherwise, not at all. She used to vomit. When the patient used to vomit every day after eating at any time, I asked purposefully, or in the morning, I have asked about the modalities, morning, night, afternoon. No, he said, any time. The mother also presented the picture, said, whatever you give at any time after eating, she will go and vomit. That was the condition. The patient had undergone a number of other treatments without any results. The parents were fed up. The parents were fed up. We can't do anything. Yes, after the physical examination and other test reports were evaluated without any specific cause. According to the case taking, the case was entered with a characteristic symptom, and the remedy was prescribed and asked them to review after 15 days. Remember, friends, the patient was suffering since 2.5 years. She has been to other forms of treatments in big cities also, in big hospitals also. They couldn't help. Only for a day or 2 days, for 3 days, she used to have some relief. Other than that, no. Daily she used to vomit. See, the beauty of repertory. We have got this. Vomiting, food, eating after. What is the standing out remedy? That is, only the remedy is the bismuth, which has got 4 marks in the complete repertory. After repertorizing a case, yes, the prescription was bismuth metallicum. Bismuth 200 I have prescribed, 2 doses, and I have asked the patient to come after 15 days. I have already given 1 dose in front of me in my clinic. And after that, follow-up, what can be? After 15 days, the patient recovered well. After giving a single dose, there were no vomiting at all from the next day. Not even a single episode of vomiting since 15 days. This is the beauty of characteristic symptom. This is the potential of characteristic symptom when we prescribe according to that. Yes, let's move on to the 6th case now. This is also a very, very interesting case. It's a case of tinnitus. The picture shows about the ear, the tinnitus. How can we manage tinnitus? A man is about 55 years, was presented with the symptoms of noise in the ear since 15 days. See, when the patient comes with the noise, we have to ask, what is the sensation of noise? This is very, very important. What is the peculiarity of noise? This is where the characteristic symptom is important. There are a lot of noises in our repertoire. When you enter a rubric, ear, noise, we get a list of noises. In that, we have to hunt for a characteristic sign or symptom. The noise started in the left ear, then it has come to the right ear. The noise in the, I asked purposefully, what is the kind of noise do you experience? The patient said, the clear hissing noise, like a snake. The noise in the ear was hissing like sound, and it was constant. This is enough. This is enough for a homeopathic physician for a prescription. Yes, from that point. And I have, on examination, I have examined the patient's blood pressure. There was no hypo or hypertension. And he came with some of the reports. No anemia also. The hemoglobin level was very much good. Yes, after hearing this, I have entered a rubric in my repertory. That is, in the Murphy repertory, there's clear-cut noise in the ears is hissing. The standing out remedy is the digitalis. Other remedies, calcarea, cannabis indica, graphite, and lachesis. On the basis of this prescription, this is the picture of digitalis purpura. Distalis 200. Single dose I have prescribed and ask the patient to review after 15 days. Follow up. After the first prescription, the patient had very slight improvement and confirming the change. Very slight. He said, sir, around 40 to 50% there is improvement. Otherwise, no. The potency was right with the same medicine, because when we enter a case of through a characteristic symptom, especially when the symptom has involved the mind, we have the liberty, we have the scope to raise the potency. After that, I have prescribed digitalis purpura 1 ml single dose, because I was pretty much sure from the repertory. It shows hissing like sound is the digitalis is the outstanding remedy. After that, I have raised the potency to digitalis 1 ml single dose. After that, the patient is completely free of tinnitus. Not even a single episode. I think this is a 3-year-old back case, I think. Not even a single episode of tinnitus has reappeared after the prescription, after this treatment by digitalis purpura. Yes, I move on to the next case. I think this is the last case for the today's session. This is also a very interesting case. A female of a chronic headache. We all used to enter a case with a chronic headache like by a constitutional approach. Yes, I was also entered a case with a constitutional approach. A female aged 30 years was presented with a chronic headache since 3 years. She has been to a number of other doctors, has been to a number of other hospitals all around Mysore without any kind of relief. Headache frontal region, which was constant since 4 months. Sometimes heaviness of the eyes. And she has undergone all kinds of scannings. MRI also she has done. Nothing else in the MRI. Headache was constant since 4 months. Patient used to tell that headache is continuous. That if she wakes up in the middle of the night also, the headache continues. Whenever she wakes up, headache was constant. And I have also tried a lot of other remedies like belladonna, gelsemium, and all. It couldn't help for the patient. Again, she used to come to the clinic and says, no, sir, there is no improvement after your prescription. I was worried. Where I'm missing anything I'm missing in the case, any point I've missed the case. And I was asking the questions, what is the nature of the headache? And she said, yes, sir. Whenever I wake up in the middle of the night also, the headache will be present. The headache will be constant. So To my astonishment, I searched the rubric in the repertory as headache constant. Let me see in the repertory. Yes, the beauty of repertory is we have got the rubric is headache constant. The outstanding remedy is the ferrum metallicum. So I thought of prescribing ferrum met. Yes. On the basis of this characteristic symptom, this is a picture of ferrum metallicum. I have prescribed a single dose of ferrum met 200. Yes. Let's see the follow-up. And the patient was 80 to 90% better in 15 days' time. Only 2 episodes of headache in 15 days. Yes. So, after that, she was not fully recovered. So, I thought of prescribing ferrum met 1 ml. Because the mind is involved. There is no single episode of headache. After that, prescription of ferrum metallicum 1 ml. So, after seeing all these cases, I think today's takeaway message is the knowledge, as I said, importance, approach, and the selection. The knowledge of characteristic symptom. As a homeopathic physicians, if we have the knowledge of characteristic symptoms according to the stalwarts, what they have said in their books, in their literary works in the homeopathic field, it will be very useful. And by the cases, we come to know that the importance of characteristic symptoms and approach towards the cases and selection of the remedy. I think I have done with my session today. Hope it has understood well about the characteristic symptoms, potential of it. Yes, thank you one and all. Thank you for the nice patience listening. Thank you, sir.